Hello, everybody. Gaz Williams here. Welcome to the Gaz Williams Show. And I am super delighted tonight to have my good friend and musical innovator par excellence, Mr. Tim Exile. Here he is. And today...
Hello, Gaz and Gaz Show people.
Yes, it's a very special day for Endless, isn't it? Today?
It is.
Yes.
It is indeed. Yeah, we launched... we launched Endless Studio. We launched the macOS version of our live jamming app, which I should have got it all queued up here, ready to go. But yeah, so it's out there. I'm amazed by the Endless team who managed. I mean, 5 months ago, this was a Kickstarter campaign.
Right.
And now it's actually
reality
on sale.
Yeah, well, congratulations. You know, I'm a huge fan of Endless, have been since before it even existed. Just when you mentioned in the Project Rockpool days, just when it was all formulating as an idea. So this is really exciting to sort of see it develop. And of course, on Sonic State, we've been huge fans of it. And we did that great time, didn't we, when we launched, well, I say launched, but we did the Sonic Jam and then I think crashed the servers in the early days, that is.
Yeah, I mean, it was a proper sort of baptism of fire, actually. We really put the whole system through its paces, but that video you did was just amazing and spot on. And I think the way... Yeah, like the Endless team, you became a sort of a meme amongst the Endless team. I can't remember now; it's so long ago. But all these sort of the little things that you said, and like, oh, Myla's come in, and it was really exciting. So thank you. I mean, you're a big part of the Endless story.
Oh gosh, well, I don't think I deserve it, but I will take that because I think it's amazing. So I think what we should probably do, I mean, there probably are a few of the audience who do in fact live in Rockpool, so that we might need to explain just a little bit about Endless. I know this is probably something that you're probably quite well versed at doing, but in a nutshell, how would you describe it?
So it's a live collaborative jamming tool, really.
That's a nutshell.
From one angle, it's an all-in-one kind of Groovebox workstation. But it comes from the workflow that I developed over like almost 2 decades.
Right.
I always wanted to improvise with electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
My first experience was with the violin. I am going
to cut in here because there is a film and a little documentary, isn't there, which actually beautifully tells this story. How do we send people there? It's on the YouTube channel on the Endless.
That's on. Well, if you head to the Endless with 3 S's YouTube channel, I think the 4th video that we launched now, because we've just launched our launch videos, and there are 3 of those. Mm-hmm. But it's called. I think we named it to make it a bit more friendly for YouTubers and people who are just clicking around in YouTube. But the documentary is called We Made a Door, and that's DOOR, not DAW. See what we did there? Because it feels like we made a door. All we did was made a door, and the community went through it.
Went through the door. Nice. Like nice analogy.
Yeah, it tracks a journey from.
Yeah, because you were saying like starting with the violin, and I think that I really enjoyed that little documentary and highly recommend everybody watch it because I think it gives context to how Endless has kind of come into being, really. So, I mean, sorry to cut you off there. I was just thinking as you were saying that then, I was just thinking this story is expertly told in this little film. So what we'll do is if you're watching this not live, maybe cut away from now, head over to endless.fm, remember Endless with the extra S, and watch the documentary and then come back and then we'll pick it up from there as if everybody now knows exactly what happened in that. So, okay, so I mean, obviously it started off on iOS mostly because of the existing technology that facilitated it, you're not having to like reinvent the wheel to kind of bring it out. And now, obviously, this is out on Mac desktop, but that's not the end of the plan, is it, in terms of the platforms in which it'll run on?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, we've got Windows coming next year.
Right.
Some point, sort of,
Yes.
I'd say spring to summer next year.
I'm pleased.
We'll come to Windows.
I get accused a little bit of being a bit of a Apple fanboy, and I'm not really. I'm quite an Apple critic in many ways. But so for it to come to Windows, hurrah! You know, people kind of sometimes feel they're missing out a little bit. So it's very, very good of you to support the Windows Massive. How about Endless on Android? Was that a possibility, or is the platform just not suitable?
It's definitely a possibility. We will get there in the end. It's just, I mean, in the process of bringing out Endless, I've made quite a few friends in the music app development community, and everyone's just like, oh, Android.
You're right.
Because there are so many different devices to support.
Yeah.
I've heard, this is anecdotal, so I'm not sure if this is 100% true, but I've heard that the core team, the sort of Android core audio team, is about 3 people, and the Apple core audio team is like 70 people.
Right.
So yeah, it just, I mean, audio on Android notoriously doesn't get as much love as it does on Apple. This is from the the platform developers themselves. So, but you know, people have done it. It just it's a lot more engineering, and you have to specifically test and get it running on specific devices, and you'll never be able to support all the Android devices. So, you know, we're currently a team of 2.5 developers basically, and it amazes me what they've done to get it to where it is. But we'll need more firepower to get it on Android, but we will.
Okay, so so people who maybe have dabbled with Endless on the on iOS, what's going to be the most notable difference then of it moving across onto the desktop platform or onto, you know, the Mac platform?
Well, I think the most exciting thing is just that it's there where your DAW is, or it's there where you plug your hardware into. It's also really exciting that you can, in the plugin version, so it's a standalone and a plugin. From the plugin version, actually also from the standalone plugin, from the standalone version, you can just drag riffs that you've made in Endless and drop them into your arrange window. So there's a video, one of the videos we launched today is a performance I did, and it's 3 minutes, 1 take, and I build up a whole track starting on Endless Studio, which is mapped to a bunch of MIDI controllers.
Yeah.
So it's very kind of dexterous and, you know, hands all over the place. And then at one point I switch out to my iPhone, I lay down some vocals on my iPhone, do a bit of mixing of them, go back to the desktop, to the controller setup. I'm just wondering, and then after that, go over to a Pro Tools setup and drag onto Pro Tools.
I'm wondering if we can play that video now. Is that gonna? I don't think I'll get busted or copyright, will it? Because I think if it's, have you got adverts on that?
No. Oh. Well, I mean, I hereby grant you permission.
Right. Okay. Let's do it. Did you say it's a 3-minute video?
It's a 3-minute video. It's on. So if you go to the Endless YouTube,
okay.
I think the thumbnail says track in 3 minutes.
I'm just going to cut you off just for a moment from the audience, just whilst I cue that up. But I think we should watch it. I haven't watched it yet, so really, I just want to see it myself. Okay, so I'm going into. And you must be getting a bit sick of that Frank Ocean Endless song coming up. So build a track in 3 minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right. So this is cool. Okay. So I'm going to just see if this works. I'm trying to do this without destroying everything. How to do this? Oh, one moment. I've lost track now of what everyone's seeing. That needs to be. It's hard to do this without giving the game away. Oh, okay. Right. Bear with me, everyone. I'm just right. The screen will go black, but don't go away.
Can they still hear us here in the dark?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, let's run it.
Is the whole screen showing?
I believe so. Oh, maybe... Is it...
It's a bit cut off for me, but...
Oh. Yeah, I think it's good. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, a bit of the screen is cut off. Sorry, I see now. Wow. Oh.
Oh.
Now it's running inside a plugin. Oh, look at it there.
There it
Oh,
is.
yeah. And of course, that could be Cubase, that could be Logic, Ableton. Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let me just get you back. Fabulous. Yeah, I think that is really cool. Sorry, just going off. Just bear with us, everyone, while I just do the switcheroo back. Right. Oops. Not that. That. And then me. Yes. Okay. Oh, and we're back. Oh.
There we are.
That's not.
Ooh.
Let's get rid of that one. There we go. I think YouTube is still playing. Okay. That is great. That's shown it really cool. Especially that little bit, and there's more at the end there. So I guess one of the criticisms possibly I heard mentioned when Endless first appeared was people thought maybe it's a bit of a novelty thing because of the way it is sort of using just the sounds built in and it's built into the app, and and that, whereas that's really cool and works for a lot of people, maybe wouldn't necessarily connect with some other people. Now, you're not just restricted to the things inside of Endless, and since Endless come out, there's been lots of libraries and loads of new sounds coming out for it anyway, so just the internal platform has grown. But I think one of the cool things now is basically everything. You've got all your VSTs and all your all your instruments that you can connect through your mixing desk, your computer. It's all good in there now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
no,
you can, and the Endless community. We've got a good community of people who have sort of kind of migrated their musical lives onto Endless, because it is, one of the things I said at the end of this documentary, we made a door documentary, is that it's, we want to reframe music as something we do rather than a product we consume. And I think this idea probably resonates with a lot of the synth community, the Eurorack community, etc. This whole idea of doorless jamming, etc. And I think what doorless jamming is about is not necessarily being anti-door or even anti-computer. It's music that's about doing and not getting stuck into perfectionistic loops. But perfectionistic track creation, arrangement, mixing, mastering,
which can
turning music into a musical practice.
I've just got to say, first of all, Tim, I've just got to cut in though. I think everybody got the video, but they didn't get the audio, so they just watched you. So it was like it does actually make a good sound, but oh no! I was trying to do it on the fly.
The ambient version.
The ambient, ultra ambient. Okay, apologies for that. I mean, it was a spontaneous idea and it didn't work, so sorry about that. But yes, so please check that out in your own time. Oh, damn, I was rocking. That's weird. It's weird because I could hear it and I'm listening to what is the mix going out. So I need to, I'm obviously...
it's funny because I couldn't hear it either. I'm just thought, Gaz must... Surely they'll be able to hear it at their end. So anyway. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. I've just got to get the egg off my face at the moment. Right. So yes. So
wait, it all adds to the suspense. Go and view the after the show. Have a look at the Endless channel and you can see all the various videos of
Monk in the chat room. Well, Monk in the chat room saying it's so rare to have 3 minutes of silence. So we've actually given like a Zen moment of calm for everybody, which is quite that's quite a nice thing in itself, isn't it? So I'm trying to kind of seize. I'm seizing that as it was a deliberate ploy all along. Right, just checking in with the chat room. Someone's asking, did the demo video last for 4 minutes 33? John Cage.
We should do another one. We'll do the remix.
I'm just flicking through the chat room. So obviously, I'm going to be taking questions from the chat room. If anybody does have questions, don't send any questions just yet. Otherwise, I'll throw things. But we will have a question. We will have some questions later. I just want to pick back up on what you were saying there, though. You were saying because this idea with maybe the way that a lot of people have interacted with computers is very much in that way, a more meticulous approach to things. Yeah. And in a way, you're kind of, whereas, at a party, someone grabs a guitar and, it's a kind of messy affair and it's whatever. And in a way, this is kind of bringing a little bit more of that kind of just fun, and it is really easy, isn't it, just to kind of go up your bum in terms of editing things way past the point of editing things to the nth degree. And I've had this happen countless times. I may have well said this to you before, apologies if so, but that idea that you play someone a demo or like a rough mix and they hear it and they think, okay. And then you spend like a month doing all these things, refining stuff, switching stuff out, bringing new stuff in, play it to that same person and say, oh, no, you played with this last month. And you say, oh, no, it's so. It sounds the same to me. Yeah. and all of that kind of, because it is quite, most people's reaction to music will be like an emotional response to it. If they don't like the person's voice, then no matter really what you do with it, other than shoot the vocalist and get another one, they're not going to it's funny. You can kind of make, so, as a listener, like an emotional attachment to the music you listen to, and no matter what prettying and editing, the things that you do to it, won't necessarily make that much of a difference if that person didn't like it in the first place. The reason why I'm saying that is
also, I think.
Well, I was just gonna say it's like it could be like a misplaced.
Sorry, I think it's.
We got a delay. Yeah, we have a delay.
We got the delay.
Yeah, it's a little bit like going to.
I was going to say that the
reporter.
That when you when you go really deep into a piece of music, when you get into that real finessing, it's quite an enjoyable process because you're getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
You're connecting more closely to the sounds that you're creating, which is a really good thing.
Yeah.
But that so rarely translates to the audience, and a lot of the time, as you said, you'll get 95% of the way there in an hour or two, and then you'll do the other 5% in a week or two. And what I think is really wonderful about all this sort of doorless jamming, the hardware movement, the Eurorack community, is that it is really reframing music as. So all that energy into sort of honing and forming a deeper relationship with what you do, is all that energy goes into forming a relationship to your skill and your practice, rather than forming a relationship to the outcome of it, which is very much like the old school music industry, getting very attached to kind of artifacts and products and stuff like that. And I think what's really good, I saw like, Mylar's latest video he released about this. He's been going really deep into building these performance systems.
Yeah.
And I think that really excites me, and that's really the idea behind Endless, is to, I guess, kind of nudge people a bit to start thinking about music a bit more like that. So instead of mastering your chops as a mixing and arranging and doing all that stuff, master your chops as a musician, as get to know your instruments to the extent that you can show up in any situation with that instrument and respond to the audience with something fresh and something new. And that's what's really exciting. And so where we're really going with Endless is, so we're building this first, and it's on iOS now, it's on macOS, next year it'll be on Windows, and we're going to expand the compatibility with the entire world of music making, whether that's a DAW, whether that's hardware, whether that's acoustic instruments, or what have you. We also want to be relevant to these compositional flows as well, but we're putting this front and center. We're putting doing front and center. But the other cool thing, and I will get the app and show you. Oh no, I'll get another jam that has more riffs in it. But I think the thing that excites me the most about Endless is that you have. So it does allow you to do stuff in real time, but you also have this full history.
Yes.
So there is a jam I just went into, and this has got a history.
Do you still call it
that's
the riff journal
in that jam?
Yeah. Are you calling it the riff journal?
The riff journal. Yeah.
I like that. But that really does kind of show why it's called Endless, isn't it? Because in that riff journal, as you look through it, every time new jams appear, I'm sure many of the audience will have tried it already, but if you haven't, you should absolutely try it. But every time new jams appear, they look like flowers, but they're kind of all the different waveforms overlaid in a circle. So really, they look really lovely, don't they? Always different, and they keep on going. Now you can go back in time to any point in time in that jam, select that jam, and then you can then manipulate that, add new things, and take that off in a new direction. Hence, it's like such an endless thing. So when we did the
one of the things.
Go on. One of the things.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There were a bunch of things that we wanted to engineer out, I suppose. Lots of problems with music making, particularly when you're jamming, you can hit these sweet spots, and you'll be like, oh, that's quite good. I'll tweak it a bit more, and then just oh, I've lost it. And then you want to go back to it, but you can't quite get back to it. And this is one of the things we really wanted to do, because I think that, so, on one hand, we're really all about making music something you do, but there are many things that inhibit you, kind of emotionally inhibit you from real free-flowing creativity. And one of them is you don't really want to lose the magic moments. And so, I think everybody's had this experience that, you're tweaking something in a track or on a hardware setup, and you hit a really nice section, and then you move away from it. You're just like, oh, I really wish I could just go back to that.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly why we built the riff history, because it keeps you moving forwards, and it gives you the confidence that if you move forwards in a way that you're not so keen on, then you can just go back to that point and then branch off in a different direction. If that doesn't work, you can still go back to the other point. And you can go back to all the other points. So
yeah.
It's kind of like GitHub for music.
That's funny. Do you know what my favourite feature in Endless is, I think? I think it's my favourite. And in fact, it's had a profound influence on the way I think about a lot of the ideas that I'm mulling over, is the retrospective way of recording, So, like, if you think about it as a looper, typically when you're using a looper, you will go, here's your in point, play, here's your out point. And that involves a certain thinking about, But the great thing with Endless is it's kind of always recording, and then you can decide whether it's like a bar or 2 bars or 4 bars if you enable the more advanced looper. But and up to 8 bars, is that right? Or is it, 8 bars?
Yes, 8 bars.
8 bars. So
you can also set the meter up to up to 16/4. So theoretically, you can.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You can grab 32 bars.
Okay.
Retrospectively.
But it's that idea that you can just be jamming away, playing, and not have to think about it until you go, "Oh, that was good!" Bang, and you sort of, you're not going, "Oh, I'm ready now. I'm going to press start." I call it falling off the log. I say this a lot on my show, that when I'm trying to kind of get into something and then I go wrong and it's like, oh, I've fallen off the log. That's the sort of thing that would make you fall off the log, that, you're really in the moment and you're enjoying it. And then you have to kind of come out to go in. And the fact that you can just play away and then just go, yeah, there it is, with a single kind of touch or click. And then it will start looping back, whichever way whatever you've decided to do. And that's quite an ingenious little, like the bit where the waveform appears in the graphics, when you've got the advanced bit set up, and you just kind of click in 4 spaces, click if you want it just to only play back the last bar, or play back the last 2 bars, or play, up to the 4 bars. There we go. There it is.
This is retrospective Gaz.
That was the Latvian national anthem, by the way. Sorry, my Latvian friends. That was terrible.
Anyway, I've got it. It's immortalized. Yes. It's immortalized.
Yeah, it's just that idea, though. Sorry, I know I'm just dwelling a little bit on that sort of retrospective type of record thing. That encapsulates a lot of the spirit of what Endless is about, which is music first. Music first, and then the doing of, and there is, and actually getting started. The old expression of all the gear and no idea is so true. I know so many people. And I often have exactly the same thing again, of almost like some sort of options paralysis, too many things and not knowing what to do, or you get up and running like immediately with Endless. There's very little in the way to prevent you from at least getting things, getting something started. And I think that is a really, really powerful aspect of it. I mean, it's the old artist thing of like, staring at the blank page, or the author looking at the blank page. It's you just like within moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think it often starts with a sort of often starts with this kind of happenstance, and because you've got the retrospective looper, and because you've got this history of everything you do, I find that say if I open a door to start making music, I immediately feel very precious and very sort of navel-gazy about all the sounds that are going in there, and it immediately sets off this train of second guessing and sort of like, does my bum look big in this sound, or it's this it's like but when I pick up, and I mean, so many things that I've done on Endless that have ended up like, all the score for that documentary, for example, it was all, it was riffs that the community had made in Endless, and
brilliant.
These are all ideas that they just came in passing. And then someone back went, oh, that's quite good actually, and then worked into it. So for me anyway, it gets me past that stage of being precious until the point where you've got this whole just oodles of good ideas and good progressions and things that you can try combining them really quickly. And even trying to combine them is I just never feel very precious about it.
Well,
it seems to happen very fluidly.
Right. And then you see, of course, we haven't actually talked about what then happens that makes it unbelievable, is the fact that as soon as you've gone, there we go, up to the cloud, down to the other jammers, their contributions, up to the cloud, down into your device, all automatically. You don't need to refresh things, and boop, the new jam appears from whoever, and there's that kind of open jams where loads of people can join in, or there's private jams, or it could be just a single 2-person jam, or in a Sonic State case, 550 people jam. God, there was 6,000.
Something like that. Well, I think we had.
It was a crazy. Sadly, the original Sonic State video.
Yeah, that really is.
I was going to say, just sadly though, the Sonic State jam did actually, the video did actually get taken down. Nick took it down by mistake, and so then it got reposted. But we lost an awful lot of comments, and I think it was at least 7,500 views at the time as well. But sorry, I cut in there. You were going to say about all of those jams.
Well, yeah, I mean that's where the real magic is, and that's the bit that I get the sort of warmest, fuzziest feeling about with Endless, is actually seeing the community go through this door that we made and built a world. And there's a whole kind of culture and etiquette really to jamming on Endless. There's even new terminology that community members have made up for like specific things that happen in jams and how to communicate with each other. But it really is music making like a conversation, and I think that's why I'm really excited now that it's on macOS, because I think much as there are a lot of iOS apps coming out these days, and it's becoming it's being taken much more seriously as a platform, but there's still this kind of stigma that you can't really do real music on iOS. And there are a lot of people who've built up their musical lives around a desktop environment.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited that now you can, from within your door, or from within your hardware setup, you can plug into one of these jams. And some of my favorite jams on Endless are jams that where all the jammers are using hardware. They're just plugging in external sounds and found sounds, instruments. We've got funk jams. We've got crazy glitchy electronic jams. We've got techno jams. We've got ambient jams. And people are using all sorts of kit, but seeing it unfold, seeing music unfold, literally conversationally. So one person will do one thing, and then another person will take that idea somewhere slightly different from what the previous person was thinking, and then a third person will come in and take it in yet another direction. So it's definitely this kind of hive mind creativity thing. And being involved in one of those jams is quite electric. Like the first time that we actually got it working, it's over 2 years ago now.
Wow.
I think at the back end of 2018, there was one jam on Endless, and if you had Endless, you were just in that jam. And we had about 10 people testing it out. And I remember the first time that there were 5 or 6 of us on at the same time, it was
Wow.
it was spine tingling.
God.
It really was, because
Right.
that's what, I don't know. It feels that's what musicians really crave.
Yeah.
And that particularly, I think,
Yeah.
that's the values of the synth community and the Eurorack community and this doorless jamming thing. It's very much about community. It's about belonging. It's about
Right.
communicating, collaborating.
And this completely leads me into, well, the elephant in the room, obviously, the pandemic, and just how, in terms of such an awful thing to happen, and obviously, disclosure, yeah, you had nothing to do with the spread of this virus. This wasn't any kind of sophisticated marketing strategy. However, you know, it was brilliant timing, and as horrible a thing as it is, you know, and I'm not trying to make light of this. I mean, it's obviously a very, very serious thing, but I mean, for when Endless first launched, I think, was it in March on iOS? I seem to remember, was it end of March or? Yeah.
March 31st.
March 31st, which was when we were all just going into the lockdown. And for an app to come out which brings people together and allows you to jam together, I mean, the timing was kind of fortuitous. I mean, obviously, as I say, you know, from an awful thing, at least that was a really great thing. At least, you know, it's like, oh, wow. Because I wanted to ask you a little bit about your experiences with anything. Oh, I lost you for a moment. Back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Not quite sure what happened. Now, I remember Ohm Studio from Ohmforce, the French developers. Was that anything that did you ever check that out? A different approach. I mean, that was more to do with it being multiple people being able to edit and add content to essentially like a DAW. For me, I thought it was really promising.
Yes.
I mean, this was 6 years ago, maybe. It was a fair while back, but it was a really big ask in a way.
Even longer than that. I
Maybe
think.
even longer. Yeah, it was a fair while back, wasn't it? Some really interesting ideas. However, I don't know how I don't think it's still going. It might still be, but I'm not sure. But I think one of the things about that made it a little bit too ambitious an idea was for people to essentially abandon whatever music software they were using and to wholesalely work within this new platform. Now, I know obviously when you're working on it on the in the iOS platform, that was more self-contained perhaps than it is on the desktop. Although I remember when we did a little interview at I think it was a super booth last year, and you'd managed to get the thing where you did it in mono, and you could have on one side an audio clock and on the other side all the music. So if you were happy to work in mono, you could use one of the channels to synchronize your modular gear or whatever. I thought that was a really cool idea. But coming back to this idea though, like with Ohm Studio, you know, having to really work only within that DAW, and it was okay, but I mean, for it to kind of compete against a really established platform like Cubase or Logic or something was maybe a little bit overly ambitious. I'm mentioning this, so were you kind of conscious then, especially with the transition to desktop, to keep the parameters quite simple and not overextend, knowing that people could link up their sophisticated normal device? I mean, how did that kind of how did that affect the development?
Yeah, well, I think that the thing that's unique about Endless is not that it's got loads of parameters. It's got a very few parameters, and you can only actually do one thing at a time in Endless. You can play one instrument and loop it, or you can select one to 8 of the layers and put those through an effect and then reloop that. So you can only do one thing at a time. Right. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's the, what DAWs allow you to do is sort of combine things, layer things up vertically. And that you get the complexity by adding lots of plugin instruments, and then adding lots of plugin effects to them, and that's how you get the sort of the nuance and complexity. In Endless, you get the nuance and complexity by continually working into sounds, because the way Endless captures stuff, it's all audio. There's no MIDI events are captured. We use, if you want to stay in time, we've got real-time quantize that keeps you on the grid, and you sort of learn quite quickly to hit ahead of the beat if you want to get your kicks on the fours or whatever. But you can keep on resculpting through effects. So it's got a bunch of different effects in there, and you can use them either drastically or subtly. But you can recently we've added a few more sort of bread and butter mixing effects, like just compression, EQ, some channel effects, etc. And I've actually started doing kind of mixing, but iterative mixing, rather than layering up plugins. I'm like, okay, this needs to be EQ'd out here. I'll just get the EQ up, take a little notch out there, loop it, etc. But it's getting nuance through iterating stuff over time is a really different way of doing things. And it just doesn't really, I think what Endless really has to offer is by deliberately doing all the stuff that DAWs don't.
Right.
DAWs are constantly kind of pulling you into this kind of, well, as I was saying, pulling you into tweaking and mixing and second guessing, etc.
Yes.
So what Endless Studio does is it's a bridge between those two worlds.
I'm just going to cut in quickly because the message is going to disappear off the top of my screen here, though. But Elling Lien says in the chat room, honestly, Endless made the quarantine a really special time. Felt more connected to people musically than ever, really. Nice. So I just wanted to say that because I thought that was
nice.
Yeah. That was a nice comment there. Frank SQ is asking, how much does the desktop version cost? And I think up until March there's a special offer, isn't it? Yeah. So I was going to mention this at the end, but we may as well mention this now.
So it's an introductory 50% discount. So grab it.
50%. Yeah.
Grab it while you can.
Yeah.
So it 50% off. So it's £79, €89, $99. And yeah, that gets you the full. Well, that gets you everything that we've got now for Endless Studio. There's a bunch more stuff coming. We are in the middle of next year. We're going to be launching a fully lossless HD service that will be with much more storage and infinite backup, etc. And that's coming next year. But this is it's still got basically everything you need. And the mobile app is free to download. There's a sound library there that you can subscribe to that we add more sounds to. The desktop version comes with some extra sounds that are special to the macOS version. So there's a whole heap of stuff in there. We put it at this price point because we want to get as many people into this world as possible, and not charging the same as a plugin company would charge for a single compressor or something.
Yeah, right. So if somebody who's a PC user though, with the PC date being obviously something that will be announced later, is there kind of an argument for people who could speculatively buy in now whilst the intro offer's on, if they're a PC user, or just to, or maybe there might be some promo when the PC. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. I was just trying to anticipate.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? I totally did not think of that. But yeah, I mean, if you buy a license for Endless Studio, I should loop back in with
Yeah.
the team.
Sorry, just throwing
about
you
that
there.
just to make sure.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah. Why didn't we think of that? But buying now to get the Windows version
Right.
cheap, because I mean, I very much doubt that the Windows version is going to be on sale before the end of this intro offer.
Right.
So yeah, good point.
So when we've talked about this community, and one of the things which was a nice addition to the original version of Endless that I first saw was the kind of chat room within Endless. How does that translate, that sort of chat thing, to the desktop? Does that all still work in a similar way, where there's essentially a chat window? Can you just hold it to the screen, actually, the chat, just to show how that looks?
Yes.
Because I thought that this was something.
So this is the jam.
Yeah.
With the chat.
Yeah,
in it.
You can see.
Well, I did actually set up. I wonder if could I switch to the desktop view. That's probably because we only set this up at the last minute, so it was just a chat, and then we were going to have. I think maybe at some point in the future.
Yes, we're going
maybe.
to. We were going to. I'm going to make a confession. Yeah. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We were going to do an Endless Jam tonight, but there was just a couple of technical things on my side. Typically, that just did. I didn't want to put people off through my own. Through my ineptitude. But we will definitely do it. We've had a few Endless Jams, and it's been really good fun. So I would love to do that. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. We will make an announcement of that, and maybe it might be on another Wednesday night show, or maybe we'll just do one. Well, we'll announce it. But I'm really looking forward to doing that. It was all a little bit too hurried today. So again, apologies about that. But you were saying then, we were just talking about the chat then, and how the chat aspect then, because the reason why I'm picking on this is that mobile phones, we expect there to be a chat window within things, be it like a WhatsApp or whatever, but to actually have like some sort of chat element going on inside your computer, music software typically doesn't have that sort of thing. So I'm really interested in that, because I think that's, to be able to have that feedback, and people say, hey, yeah, great track, shame about the bass line, or whatever.
It's all there in the macOS app.
Fab.
So everything that's in the mobile app, it's basically all the functionality of the mobile app in a plugin and standalone format, with MIDI mapping and drag and drop.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more on screen, obviously on the desktop version, because you've got a lot more screen real estate. So whereas in the app, say if you want to get into the mixer is a different page for playing the instruments, whereas on the desktop version, the mixer is up there right at the same time as you're making all the tracks, and you can use looper pedals. You can MIDI map a looper pedal. So I'm really, really excited to see.
So I could map
more.
Yeah. So I could map the loop, the retrospective looper. Could I maybe? Is that a mappable thing?
Yes.
So I could say. I'm trying to remember which way is which. This. Play back the last bar. Play back the last two bars. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
And it also has a traditional loop pedal functionality that runs at the same time. So you can also punch in, punch out. So you can choose. Right. You can play. So let's say you could get your first loop going with a traditional punch in, punch out looping mechanism, and then after that start just playing in bar by bar and go like, oh yeah, that was a good one. I'll have those two bars. But you can also use the punch-in looper allows you to make polyrhythmic loops. So you can actually say you could loop, say 3/16 or 7/16 or 5/8 just by tapping in on a 5, and then build up polyrhythms like that. It's really fun doing that, because obviously then you get evolving textures and so on.
That is interesting. I mean, I think maybe, in fact, that's a really good example. I was going to say that I almost call it the scourge of dance music in a way. And I've not really got anything against dance music. But for many, many years, like apps and hardware would just kind of make it very easy to make a kind of generic dance music, and that musicians who are not dance musicians, who don't make dance music or can't in fact dance, which is the case for a lot of people who make dance music, I've found out, that they don't dance. I had to ask Paul Hartnell when he was a guest if he actually dances or not, and he said no. But I mean, say for instance you're a kind of an old kind of beardy weirdy folk musician. You can still get in there. I mean, I think the point I'm trying to say is, yes, you could make dance music with Endless, and I mean, that's probably the easiest music that you could make with Endless. But things like polyrhythms and the ability to do that really takes it away from it being, like a specific, dance music tool, and into something a lot more interesting. I mean, I'm quite curious about the jams that have happened that are completely beatless and that have a very vague sense of where the downbeat is. Has that kind of thing taken off much? Really just sort of like almost ambient soundscapes and the like.
Yeah. It really has.
Great.
In fact, what I find really interesting is because it's so easy to just my jam's auto playing new beats because it's really easy to run into other jammers and run into people who have completely different musical worlds that they come from. But there's so much cross-pollination, and I'd say most of the music that happens on Endless is delightfully genreless. You'll have vocalists collaborating with flute players, collaborating with someone with a crazy modular setup, collaborating with someone who's only just started making beats on Endless and just mashing away on 16ths on some bass line.
I'm going to have to clap this part of the conversation. I think that's fabulous. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and also, I guess, again, the beauty of this platform, the fact that that you can, that it doesn't, that anyone can do it from their homes, and so those people who've got like a full pipe organ in their kitchen, can actually jam with other people now. Finally, I'm not entirely sure what percentage of the Endless user base does have a pipe organ in the kitchen, but
yeah, I mean, there's been more sort of like pots and pans and hitting. There's quite a few jams. We most of the time there's at least one jam on our kind of join-in page, which is a sort of public forum where anybody can come in and jam.
That's
and usually
cool.
one of those is dedicated to either found sounds or vocal sounds or mic input only stuff, and that often leads to the most interesting stuff, I'd say.
That's great.
It's wonderful. I just sort of thought then that. Yeah, so we called it Endless, but it's kind of edgeless as well, and that's another thing I really like about it is that, as I said, the music that happens is so edgeless. It just takes the form of the sort of collective of people who were there doing it at the same time, and no one gets like kind of, this it's the wrong tempo for this kind of music, or it's the wrong music for this type of instrument, or it's just like, do what you do, come. Sounds can always be shaped. That's the wonderful thing. If someone plonks in a layer that doesn't quite work, then you just just chisel into it with some effects. Just grab the low pass filter or grab the high pass filter or the gate or.
So my first encounter of a computer jamming system was using Reaper's Ninjam. Did you ever come across that? I mean, this was, I mean, I think it's still going now, but this was a fair while ago. And that was a real-time jammer with the ingenious way of keeping people in time by offsetting the latency to be a complete bar to whatever tempo the jam was at. But which sort of works in some ways, is impossible if you're trying to actually play some sort of meaningful song, because you're always hearing everything a bar late, and you get this really weird time paradox going on of just, it's like who, where, what. It's really funny. But what I used to find quite funny was you join these public jams and there might be loads of people on the jam, and 90% of them would just be guitarists of the Ernie guitarists. Do you know them? Have I mentioned them to you, Tim, before? Ernies. Do you know them? Guitarists who are Ernies? No? It's those people who are Ernie. Just
okay.
Just
yeah.
soloing. It just incessantly soloing. And then I learned that you could mute. So I'd just be having these jams, trying to have these jams going, and just occasionally, just for a laugh, just unmute them. Ernie, mute. But I mean, it was an interesting. I think that was a really interesting idea to take a step towards on real time jamming. Of course, is Aloha and Elk. Is that something that you're kind of keeping an eye on? I mean, it's a different approach, but. More details are emerging now of that, because it's been a little bit shrouded in secrecy. Just for people who haven't heard of that, Elk is a music OS, and it runs in incredibly low latency. And if you use this Aloha, there's a little box, and the box, I think it's just got stereo inputs, and you plug it directly into your router with not Wi-Fi, with a Ethernet cable, and then it facilitates real-time jamming with theoretically sub 1 millisecond latency, which is a really interesting thing. Now, I appreciate this is a completely different direction to Endless. Endless isn't a real-time jammer in that respect, and in fact wouldn't really work in that way at all. And this is however, I mean, it is an interesting development. I'm kind of curious to see how far they get with it. It's for me, I think it's probably early adopters who will be experimenting, but it won't go mainstream until it gets adopted into something like GarageBand or something really mainstream.
Yeah,
but it's an interesting development.
It's an interesting topic, this whole area. I mean, you've also got like audio movers, which is seems to be another darling of the lockdown. And I know a lot of friends, particularly mix engineers, etc., who use audio movers to play fully uncompressed mixes to people in different locations. I think it is really a different thing. It is a different thing.
100%
so
different.
When we built the Endless workflow before we built in the collaboration features. So actually, the way the whole collaborative element came to it was, well, there's a story about it in that documentary, in the We Made a Door documentary, about how that happened. So it was actually a bit of a sort of quirk of fate. And that we realized that the way ideas were being built up and the way they were being stored in this riff history, or the sort of breadcrumb trail of everything that was being done, just like, well, why don't we attach that to basically a Dropbox style syncing database, which is, I mean, the technology behind Endless is similar to the technology behind Dropbox, sort of real-time syncing.
Yeah, real-time syncing.
But it's like Dropbox, but you add at each client has their own local transport that inherits tempo from the riffs that get shared in this Dropbox. So we call it real-time asynchronous. So it doesn't demand that that everybody has sub-millisecond or sub.
Yes.
100 millisecond latency.
Well, in fact, and actually, I'm just cutting in there. So, I mean, I guess if you're even offline for a little bit, maybe your phone has run out of batteries or whatever, when you plug it back in, log back in, it'll bring you back up to speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a hugely different thing. So, no,
well, in the days when we used to get to go on aeroplanes, I killed off quite a few long haul flights by just on Endless, and obviously that's not airplane Wi-Fi has never really been worth it itself.
No.
So, but yeah, just solo jamming, eating up 3 or 4 hours of a flight, just getting lost into making ideas, and then when you land, turn off airplane mode, everything's synced up to the cloud, and now there's Endless Studio for macOS. Boot up Endless Studio. There's all the stuff you're doing on the plane. Drag it in, or remix it, or add layers from your really fancy, expensive synth, etc.
Yeah, it just reminded me then when I was on tour with Carl Hyde Underworld, and we were flying to Australia. We were playing a little tour over there, and I hadn't long bought my Teenage Engineering OP1, and the way the OP1 works is this tape that you can that's 6 minutes long, like a multi-track tape, and then what you can do then is once your tape's full, you can like cut a record, and there's like a little animation of a little record deck, and you can do like a real-time mix down onto this 6 minute, and it's like a side A and a side B. And so I'd spent the flight, it's a long old flight, isn't it, going over to Sydney from the UK, making this thing, and I had incredible, the wonderful Peter Chilvers, who's been a guest on the show, Brian Eno's collaborator, doing a load of parts on it, and also Angie Pollock, Peter Gabriel's keyboard player and Goldfrapp keyboard player, who's also in the band on that tour. She did loads of parts on it as well. Oh, this is a really cool thing. And then I recorded it onto, so at the time I had no way of backing it up, so I recorded it. I made a mix down onto this little record deck. And then I started working on the B-side then. So in order to work on the B-side, it meant having to wipe all of the contributions. But it was fine because I'd made this little mix down. And then I don't know how I did it, but I think I went to press to make the mix down or something on, and just one press record, and then press stop. No, I was doing it on side A.
Oh.
Yeah. I tell you what, the OP1 takes no prisoners. It's like no undo. And like, if you made a little mix down, and if you accidentally do that, it's really easy to do. Yeah, it's gone. It was, you should have seen the one that got away. It's a bit of I was like, oh, it was a really cool piece of music. But that kind of, in a way, you think about it afterwards, you go, well, music sort of is an ephemeral thing in many respects, and is quite nice for it to be gone in some ways. I mean, this is me trying to justify it rather than, not a particularly relevant story, but actually just remembered about it. But it's just, I mean, I remember because I was showing off about the OP1, going, look, hey, this is, no undo. You have to respect this thing, where we've been living in this kind of pampered bubble of endless undos. It wasn't that long ago, ladies and gentlemen, where there was only one level of undo. I will just remind you that it probably 15 years ago, maybe. I don't know when it was, but you would have undo, and that was it. One, so you'd have one chance. But with the OP1. Nope.
No chance. No prisoners, no chances.
Oh, so ASDI, Fassi, is complaining that there's too much talk and no music making. So, right. Okay. This is for you.
Right.
What's your name? Steve Fassi. Gonna make you regret that choice now. Making a really horrible song about your name. No, sorry, I'm joking.
Yeah. We should set up.
How we doing?
Let's do another one with proper jam styles. And,
yes.
And there will be, you'll be complaining there's too much music making and not enough talk.
Aha! Yeah, no, because, we were going to have a go at it, but I hadn't done it before with the I've dabbled a little bit with the computer, but not I haven't really done it properly. So I think it would have been a little bit unfair to have, honestly, I've put my audience through so... Sorry to call you my audience. The people who watch the show, not my audience, but the people who watch the show, they've had to put up with some fairly awful shows where I've really been struggling with what. So I didn't think it was fair to do that to them tonight with, because I mean, Endless is a very slick and easy. I don't know whether the word slick is the right thing, but it's a very fluid and quite a beautiful piece of software. And I think it would be unfair to kind of sully that with my own farting around. So I will make a promise that we will be doing it soon. And maybe we could do it not on one of the show schedules, but we could do it as a separate, yeah. Oh, I'd like to do that. Yeah. So maybe soon. We'll try and do that soon.
Great.
Yeah, I'm desperate to jam.
I'd miss them actually. We did because we did this Kickstarter campaign, and that's another part of the story. We ran a Kickstarter campaign in June to fund building Endless Studio, and as part of that Kickstarter campaign, you know how Kickstarter campaigns work. You've got like the basic thing, and then a thing with some more things on it, and then you've got some like super duper duper things for people who are really into what you're doing, and for the super super duper things. Our friends, some of our artist friends, including Gaz, very kindly offered to do jams with our artist backers. And I kind of missed doing those because they're really nice. There were like 4 or 5 people in a jam. And they always overran by at least an hour because everybody.
That's what it should happen.
The first 10 minutes, everyone's like, "Oh, hi Gaz, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna plug in my setup and do this," and then cut to 10 minutes in, and like no one's saying anything. No one's saying anything. And it's just like mashing up all this stuff and moving through all these different styles, and it was wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I mean, it's the last few months we've been very busy getting into the studio ready, but and we've hardly had a chance to even sort of queue up any of this. Oh, so I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Well, it will be soon.
Let us jam.
Okay. I'm just going to pick up Wagyu just said about the Loop Deck show. This is just for. Sorry, Tim. I'm just going to say, just out of interest. I don't think I told you this, or maybe I did. The Loop Deck. I sent it back. I sent it back, so it's gone. I think arrived in the day. I wasn't planning on doing it on the show, and I thought, oh, maybe we'll just do a little kind of let's explore this together, and I'll see how nice it is to map it for music. And God, I went from really admiring it and thinking it was this wonderful thing to absolutely hating it by the end of the show. And literally, as soon as I finished the show, I put it in a box and never touched it again and sent it back. And
really?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's a good thing. I don't really think but I think it's more for photo editing and video editing than it is for music. And you could set it up if you were a bit more patient than I was. I think also just trying to do it live on the show as well, just isn't necessarily the best way to first familiarize yourself with something. But saying that, so I wouldn't necessarily try and put you off that, everybody. But yeah, for me, it just, I don't know. It was for something that was meant to kind of facilitate an easier workflow. I found it a little bit annoying, I think. Anyway, sorry, that was just to keep everybody up to date with my faffings. But in terms of this jam that we're going to do, I mean,
yes,
it's been a massive.
I mean, sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, I've got so much. I've been really configuring this studio here now to be. I've got multi-jam zones in here. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 different jam zones in this room, and each of those different jam zones is an array of equipment. One of them being, it's just slightly out of shot. The Moog trilogy and the analog 4, and then we got the guitar and bass zones, we got the electron zones, and we got the drum machine zones, and then we got the keyboards and playing zones, and then we got the modular zones, and all of these are different, and could be manned by a different person. So actually within the studio you could have a 7-person jam, which I think would probably sound just ridiculous, because each one of these zones is an entire sound, so you'd need So what I've got at my far end is this thing that I've been developing, which is a head-to-head jamming zone, where there's a bunch of gear, both players, and you're kind of looking at each other. And I've not really seen a lot of jams going on like that, where it's a kind of and the idea that I want to explore with that, which I suppose is a little bit like some of the ideas in Endless, but I'm curious about if you give a musician essentially a whole array of things that they could fill up every single bit of the sonic spectrum, how to jam meaningfully with another musician, and to create the space and to not dominate the soundscape. Because I've been a jamming musician since long time, since I was about 16. I really got into jamming early on, and I've loved it. And I used to live up this mountain, this remote little farmhouse up on the top of a mountain, and we had in the big front room huge views down a valley and a Hammond organ in a window, and we used to have all night jam sessions there. It was amazing. I keep dreaming about that place. Back in the mid-90s this was. And I vowed that I would never, ever live anywhere again without a jamming environment. I need, because in that house, for instance, friends would come up and we'd have a meal and maybe a few drinks and whatever. And then, someone would just wander down into the jam room and, maybe get on the kit, just start playing a beat. Someone else would wander in, maybe pick up a bass or jump on the Hammond. And I should mention, in that jam room, we had a BSA Super Rocket motorbike up on some bricks that was being done up by one of the guys in the band. And the Super Rocket BSA motorbike, there was another one which is called the Rocket Gold Star, and we had a big poster of the Rocket Gold Star. And that's my band, my long-term band. It was called Rocket Gold Star, so kind of named after this motorbike in the jam room from back then. Sorry, this is an aside, but the point of this little waffle is that jamming was, I was living it. My band, our first single was 12 hours long back in the year 2000, which was quite an interesting thing. We just signed a record deal.
Ahead of your time.
I know, we'd signed a record deal, and at the time, MP3s were just becoming like a household name. And Frank at the band had realised that you could fit on in terms of data on a regular CDR, you could fit 12 hours of music. So he'd suggested, why don't we record a 12-hour long song? And somehow the record company agreed. And we did it in this studio. Oh, it was a really, really great day. And we started at noon and went through to midnight. We had 64 guests joining us at various points in time. And it was being recorded, mixed down onto DATs, because this was 2000, the year 2000. And then Frank managed to take all these DATs and stitch all of them up together until we got this kind of full thing. And we had a competition as well. And it was like a really convoluted idea, but it was like a picture. I mean, this never came to be, sadly, but there was a picture, like a drawing, a painting by numbers. And we were trying to figure out, how could we prove anyone's ever listened to the whole 12 hours? So we thought, right, well, if we have a painting by numbers, and I would just say at spontaneous bits, I'd go, number 7 is purple, and then carry on with the jamming. Just so the idea was, who'd ever colour it in the correct colours was proof that they'd listened to the whole 12 hours to know what colour each bit should have had to have been. I have got it. I will share it soon. I have got the 12-hour single. God, I used to just love just dragging the file around the desktop, thinking, oh, this is a 12-hour long song. Now, we had a verse and a chorus, and what would happen is we'd play the verse and the chorus, and then we would go into like the middle section, which would be maybe about 40, 45, maybe an hour and a half long, sort of middle eight. Then go back to the verse and the chorus again, and then go off on another. And we weren't allowed to know who was going to join us. And the band was called Rocket Gold Star, but and we were in the large control room, and the people, some of the guys from the record company would hold up a sign to the window, Rocket Guest Star. And when they do that, the door would open and in would come somebody. And it might have been like a musician friend that we might have known, or it might have just been a complete stranger that we don't even know. They may have just been walking past and just stuck their head in and then come in. And someone had got in touch with this South Wales group of experimentalist musicians, and a whole bunch of them took part. So it was quite funny. The door would open, a complete stranger would walk in with something that they'd made, and then they would play with us for about 15 minutes and then go. And I've never seen them again. So, ever again. So there was just these really weird things, just 12 hours of it. Yeah.
I mean, it does sound totally like an endless jam,
right?
Quite honestly.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's cool.
They do sometimes go on for hours, and
right.
like some random person will come in, you don't even know where they're from.
Right.
They're not even in England.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. But I was mentioning this merely that I have got a certain amount of things in my past that make me kind of, really feel, kind of in tune with the ideas of Endless. And because, I mean, jamming is a language, isn't it? And I mean, we're communicating ideas, and I have this thing that I find is quite interesting. I've certainly experienced it with the modular, that when you're working within like very abstract areas, sometimes, yeah, it's right. It's just, oh yeah, that sounds good now. And I'm really kind of quite curious about what is it that makes you kind of go, yeah, that's it. That's the good bit there, or that's working now. When it's so abstract, it's sort of quite hard to, it's not just, like with a acoustic guitar and it's in tune and you're singing in tune, hopefully, or harmonizing, and there's certain parameters there that you can say, yeah, that's working. But with a more electronic thing, and you're in a much more abstract environment anyway, to have this idea of that's it, that's working, that's good. I'm quite curious about that. Any thoughts about that at all?
Where the magic comes from. Well, it's like where the magic of conversation comes from. And you were talking about making space. And jams, people who don't know or haven't had experience of jamming they'll be like just not listening to each other, and just layering stuff over the top, and really just sort of tuned into what they're doing. I think it's a skill in the same way that when you're a kid, you learn how to enter conversations with people, and you learn when to talk and when to listen, and you learn about timing. And that's something that, I mean, no one, you can't go to school to learn how to be funny, and you can't go to school to I don't think you can go to school to learn how to jam. I mean, I suppose there are certain principles. You can be taught how to listen and taught how to respond, but I think what's so wonderful about it is that good jamming and good jamming environments really pull people out of themselves, and what comes out of people is so inimitably just them. And then when you get, you were saying you had all these different instrumentalists and musicians who came in, and they all brought their own flavor.
Yeah.
And even if they all came in and were given the same instrument, they would come in and bring that same instrument their own flavor.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the real magic is. It sort of potentiates, like all the different influences and all the different voices coming together. Everybody's got their own magic, and together we have extra magic. And that's obviously it's my job to sort of bring it back to Endless, but that is also genuinely what happens. On a technical point, on the whole making space thing, because one of the things you can do in a jam with Endless is you can be the person who doesn't actually make anything. You can just be there, turning levels down and muting things that get too much, and then sending a new riff back with a slightly different mix. And actually, the most experienced jammers in the community will probably spend as much time filtering things out and mixing things and removing things as they do adding things.
Yeah.
And when you've got a few people who are quite experienced doing that, it's really wonderful, because when you make space, you're not removing things. You're opening doors to change. You're providing a space for something new to happen.
Who was it who said that? Who said that music is actually the space between the notes? That a solid sound. And by pulling the space out of the solid sound, was
it Cage?
Maybe.
Was it Cage?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it certainly is it's a famous old thing, which I think there's a lot of truth in it. Maybe the chat room can help there. So there's a few interesting things being said in the chat room. Let me just, I just saw something that was quite interesting. Chat room, the chat room speeds on at a fair old rate here. Sorry about this. Let me just have a quick flick through here. There's some, where's that? I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been really fortunate having this wonderful regular chat room with such great vibrant conversations and lovely people. Was it Debussy? Maybe.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it would make sense.
I was also going to glibly say, was it Richie Hawtin? But anyway, no.
So you know that this is a lovely little story. You know that Debussy and Eric Satie were like really good friends back in sort of those days at the end of the 19th century. And one of the things that's quite interesting is that Eric Satie, do you know Satie? Sort of Genopedia, he would write his scores without any bar lines. So when you're playing his music, you can interpret time in your own way. Which I think is really nice, and it actually means that a lot of interpretations of Satie can have a fair amount of flexibility. But the best story about Satie that I'd heard was at some point he decided that like choosing what to wear was taking up too much of his valuable brain time. So he went and ordered, I think it was something 8 or 10 brown corduroy suits with matching hat. And that's what he wore for the rest of his life. So he opened his wardrobe and just put my brown suit on and put my hat on. Yeah. I don't know why, I just love that story. Perhaps because of brown corduroy as well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Triple corduroy.
I mean, I practically live in this endless jumper these days. So I don't know, we've got a couple of those lying around. So that's my brown corduroy suit.
Ty's ears are pricking up. Debussy, Satie, yes. I was on the show earlier on Sonic Talk with Ty earlier. It was we had a great show with Nick. I really enjoyed it. Lots of fun. Recommend that show if you haven't watched it. Today's show. It was a really, really good show. Ty's brilliant. Anyway, I'm just checking time. So, okay, we're just coming up to the hour and a half point. So I think we'll probably look to sort of wrap around now then. So just roadmap then. So we're talking. So today, special day, endless desktop release. So yes, so that was part of the point coming on today to celebrate and to acknowledge that significant, wonderful, life-changing software that is truly, truly remarkable. Yeah, and revolutionary is a word that you should use carefully. Like game changer again is a word you should use carefully. These words are used maybe way too often, but I think in the case of endless, I think it is absolutely fair to call it absolutely revolutionary software. And for that, I think really is an incredible achievement. And to go and again,
thank you.
No, I mean it is, and really just to reiterate just how good it is to watch the little the little document, the little We Made a Door little feature on the endless.fm website it really gives a great sort of view into your brain, really. I thought it was a very selfless thing that you've done making that. So yes, highly recommend everybody watches that. And
really? I'm really. Do you know what? I think that's one of the best things someone said to me all week, because I felt, one of the things that I was talking about in that documentary, I tried to kind of give it a proper story arc with a turning point, etc. The turning point really was 2009. I'd signed to Warp Records. I'd done my album on Warp, and I realised that I was in this really perfectionist world, and I realised that my vision for being on Warp Records was just for the glorification of me, so I could just get to say that I was on Warp Records,
which is a hell of an achievement, though. I mean,
it was just such a Well, it is cool. It is cool, but I have to say it was. It was just freaking social climbing, really. It was like musical social climbing. And, okay, I can probably write music, and had I not written that music, then obviously it wouldn't have led to that, etc. But it definitely felt like I was trying to make everything all about me. But it was weird doing that documentary, because it is me speaking. And so I was worried. A couple of people said, stop talking about yourself and talk about the product. But I'm really glad you said that, actually, because I have been a little bit oh God, am I just making it all about me again?
No. It's the context.
I think it's a good story.
It is a good story. Absolutely. No, it really, really is. No, and I think in a way, we talk about, in a way, it's almost about this idea of separating the ego a little bit from what we do, and how much maybe ego does perhaps sort of influence our decisions, and really beautiful jamming is almost about the kind of almost abandonment of the ego, and to be just present with everybody.
I think also with telling stories is another thing that I've found. When I was. There was a big whole shake-up then. I did a lot of therapy, and I did a lot of stuff to I needed to do a lot of getting over myself, basically. Right. And I was reminiscing with a friend a few days ago, saying that actually, had I done this documentary 10 years ago, it would have been an absolute psychological cluster. It would have been a nightmare. Because, right. But actually, I think it feels, one of the messages, the idea behind it is you've had a lot of creative achievements in your life. You've done great things. You've moved people. You've inspired people. And by inspiring people, you've made yourself a platform which allows other people to then build their creative efforts on top of. And I think that's something. What I'm noticing is, a lot of the people around me, musicians, technologists, YouTubers, etc. There's this move away from the cult of celebrity towards people kind of taking up this role as being community leaders, I think. And that, that's where I start to get a little bit emotional, because I think this is really, this isn't just about nerding out about music gear. We are, to some extent, building a new world that we want to be part of, and there are parts of the old world that we are sick of.
Right.
And you don't really get past the age of 40 without bumping into your own ego and thinking shit, I need to get over myself.
Yeah.
And then thinking well, okay, if I get over myself, what do I actually have to offer the world? Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm getting off on one.
No, it's good. It's good. On my channel, there is another chat that we made in the rather wonderful location of walking to and down from Griffith Observatory that overlooks Los Angeles. Wow, it's incredible.
We could travel.
I know, when we could travel. But there was a lot of interesting points in that. So if you haven't seen that, then that's on my channel. So that's worth watching. I was trying to edit together a long conversation. But I think, there was a lot of valid points in that conversation that really got me thinking about the about this idea of it being less about yourself and just being part of something. Oh no, I know what I was going to say. You were talking about how in the past, is someone make the way it was, you had very few people making products for the masses, and then literally in recent years, you've got people sharing a silly video on TikTok or WhatsApp, and that someone is like everyone can be content creators, and sharing between 4 friends is a valid thing that and taking away this kind of idea that the content creators are these kind of sacred cows, that this is sort of a democratization of the content creation, I suppose. Anyway, sorry, I digress. There's a lot more about that in that
and also
putting
content.
God.
But the content creation, I think previously content. This whole, I call content the C word. I hate the idea of content. It's so demeaning.
Yeah.
What it really should be is culture. And what this obsession about content these days, what it does is by obsessing about the content, it strips away the culture around it. And actually,
great point.
The culture that emerges around the content is the important thing. That's what glues us together and gives us some shared goal that we can stand shoulder to shoulder and move forward towards. Oh
no, Rose. A concept that I talk about a bit is this. I call it the digital slurry, and this, and in a way, this kind of, you'll see the parallel to this now. The digital slurry is every day the things that get uploaded into the internet just kind of feed into this digital slurry, and like you've been working on your album for 2 or 3 years, and it's the day of release, and you go, hey everybody, and you get like say 11 likes on Facebook, and then it gets just carried off down in the digital slurry as more of the loads of the stuff also gets uploaded, and it's a little flag going, don't forget about me, it took 3 years, and then it's just carried off in this huge. So the thing is, there, by being so into that thing, it's whereas, like say with Endless, and you can just not have such a precious relationship and just have all the joy of that kind of creativity, but without getting all those hang-ups, because and this is the possible negative thing in that, unless you're lucky, people won't listen to what you've done, sadly. So you're probably better off. It's a bit of an awkward thing to say.
We are thinking about that sort of stuff next year. We've got some other really cool, exciting stuff that I promised the team I wouldn't talk. Because I've got into a bad habit of sort of talking about all sorts of future stuff that we could do in the cool stuff that we could do in the future.
Yes.
And the team were just like, Tim, we haven't even spec'd this out yet. Let alone figured out how long it's going to take to make. Let alone anyway.
So I guess out today on Mac, at some point in the future, hopefully 2021, we'll see it appear on Windows. And but beyond that, you're just going to have to kind of join the various socials to keep in touch with the developments of Endless, because this ain't over. There's a lot more to come yet, isn't there? So
it's definitely not over. There's some really cool stuff coming.
Right. Well, I think we'll use that nice little upbeat there to end tonight's show. And I'd like to thank you so much for joining me, especially as this really, really great on the launch day as well. I think that's
thank you, Gaz.
Super cool.
You're an inspiration and a national treasure.
Hey!
So thank you for your service to
I don't know quite what I'm doing.
And thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, well, as I say, we've made a promise. Now, I will get this jam. We'll do this jam real soon, and it'll be a chatless jam, all music. And, yeah, and okay, so I'll say thank you, but I just want to let everybody know what the plan is just in the next few days. So I'm going to be going live with my second FX Friday show. So this is a new. So I'm doing 3 shows a week now. Mondays, 10:30 p.m. is my Adventures in Eurorack. Wednesday, 8 p.m. is the Gaz Williams Show with wonderful quality guests like Tim, as we've seen, and some, as you've also seen, we've had some terrific guests, and I've got unbelievable guests coming as well. I know I keep saying this, but you got to believe me. Well, have a look who we've already had, and you will see. We get quality guests on the show, and then the new show on Friday. Now, this new show, it still is in its early days. The plan for the Friday show is there is somebody, a dear friend of mine who I play in bands with, and I want him to be my regular. He's a wonderful guitarist, and it's just getting it so he can join me. So it'll be like more of a guitar effects, bass, and we're still going to use some keys as well, but that's the plan for the Friday show. So at the moment it's just in sort of development, I guess. It's just bubbling under, but it will but please tune in on Friday anyway. I've got something quite cool that I want to show on Friday, and hopefully my wonderful friend will be joining me, but he hasn't confirmed yet, so I can't say it anyway. But I'll be back certainly on Monday with more Adventures in Eurorack, and Wednesday next week, if I get, well, I've got somebody who is hopefully going to join. So, oh yes, and one more thing. I've just started a Discord chat, and I know a few of you have joined, and I don't really use Discord particularly. There is a great Discord endless chat. So, yeah. So if you do use Discord,
also join that.
Yeah.
Although we are getting into the age of the proliferation of Discords,
right.
But
yeah,
choose your Discords wisely. But definitely choose Gaz's. And
well,
give ours a go as well.
Yeah, I haven't quite worked out the purpose of it just yet, but I was going to. I mean, I said I was going to announce what I was going to do on the shows, but I haven't announced anything. So it might take me a little bit just to get used to it. But I certainly want to have some means to keep in touch with everybody, because we have such a beautiful chat room with such positive, wonderful contributions. So to be able to formulate a community in some way, or whatever way we can. But one thing on my Discord though is, and this was a great suggestion by somebody on there, there is like a kind of like a show and tell. So if you've got tunes or anything that you've uploaded that you'd like to share, then pop along to the Discord and just put it in there, because I'd love to see what everyone's up to, really, and just kind of get an idea of where everyone's, what everyone's up to. So that's one of the things. So if you just fancy popping along and just popping some links in there, really, of just so I can, oh yeah, what is it? Some give a little bit of feedback as well about what you're up to as well. So that's part. I can see that being a pretty cool use of Discord, certainly for for my shows and whatnot. But just the idea that building more links and more community, and as something I mentioned quite a lot, I think the music technology community, by and large, so long as we're not arguing about Behringer, is a really positive place indeed, with lots of wonderful people, and I feel blessed, for want of another word, to be part of that. So yes. And on that note, everybody,
yes,
we're going to say goodbye.
Bravo.
Please take care and be kind to everyone, even if they don't deserve it. Big love, everyone. Bye soon. See you soon. Bye.
Good. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.